Well, it has finally arrived. I have been talking about this almost since I launched the channel 2.5 years ago. And on live streams, people have asked me, where are you at? How's it coming? And I was embarrassed to say it wasn't done, but it is now in print and available on Amazon everywhere around the world. Let me tell you about this book. Now, you can tell by this copy, let's get this up closer. You can tell it's got this thing over here where it says this copy is not for resale. This is my proof copy that just came in the mail today, and I wanted to take a minute to look through it to make sure that the pages were numbered correctly and, everything had wound up. All the chapters started on the right side of the book and all that kind of stuff. I have not scoured it for misspelled words or dangling prepositions or those kinds of things. I have been working on this book now on and off for really almost 3 years when I started planning it and trying to get it together. This is an account of my journey of faith. Really from the time that I was in England and Scotland to today. Not really my growing up years. There's a little bit mentioned in there, but it's not an autobiography. It's really a meditation on the struggle of faith. And I had this idea almost 9 years ago now. We took a trip with the Ellen STEM Academy to Rome, Assisi, and Florence. And we were only in Assisi for a day. That was it, one day. But I was just struck with a lot of things about Francis and Claire and the town and the churches. And I have talked about this ring. I don't know if that'll be in focus or not. Let's see if I can get it out of my face. I have this ring. It's actually made by a company in Assisi. And what is around it is the letter tau, which was sort of a symbol of the cross. And the tau is the symbol that Francis took for himself. And I have worn this ring now for about 9 years. And just, I don't know, feeling kind of a connection, I suppose. And so when I got the idea for this book, I wasn't really sure how I wanted to go about it. But it sort of sprung from driving down the road every day to work, driving to Knoxville and back, and listening to Bebo Norman on his self-titled album, Bebo Norman. And pretty much every song on there, probably all of them with the exception of the apology to Britney Spears, all of the songs on there were just speaking to me. They were speaking to me about my crushed faith. They were speaking to me about how I felt an outcast from God at times. And I mentioned in the book, there are times when I would be driving and kind of singing along and just suddenly tears would just start to flow. The album had that big of an impact on me. And I have in the book, I have a QR code you can scan with your phone and pull that album up on Spotify if you want to hear, those songs in their fullest. And what I had originally intended to do was put the song lyrics of a song before each chapter. And when I started going through the proofreading process and using Perplexity AI to look through the document for areas that might have been plagiarized, or where I didn't put my own flair on something enough to call it my own. And there were a few places that it caught. One of the main things it caught was you can't use entire song lyrics. It's not a matter of plagiarization, it's a matter of copyright. Now, whether AI is lying to me or not, I decided I would err on the side of caution. And so you'll just see small snippets of these songs at the beginning of each chapter, kind of the ones that fit the theme of what I wanted to talk about. The book is built around 4 churches. San Damiano is the church where St. Francis heard his calling. He heard the voice of God coming from a crucifix hanging over the altar. The Porziuncola Chapel is where he lived most of his life. It's a chapel that sits inside of a basilica now, but it is a chapel where he would sleep out in the woods, maybe, in a small hut or just under the trees. And it is the chapel where he eventually died from all the illnesses that he had contracted throughout his life. The Basilica of St. Clare, obviously, is dedicated to the memory of St. Clare, who was, I guess, his first female follower, and who started her own monastic order, a nun order called the Poor Ladies, became known as the Poor Clares. And that iconic crucifix that spoke to Francis is now hanging in a side chapel in the Basilica of St. Clare. And then, of course, the Basilica of St. Francis, which is where his body is interred. And so the book is built around those 4 stages, those 4 acts, as it were. Now, as it turns out, I wanted to take my daughters back to Italy with me this year. I wasn't sure I was going to have the book completed in time. I wanted them to be able to read it before we went, and so it is available. But it just so happens that the time that we're going is in a window where the remains of St. Francis will be brought up into the lower chapel. I believe it's the lower chapel. And you have to have a ticket to walk through. And so they're free, but it's just kind of by time. So we have that set up. It may negatively impact the whole overall feel I wanted them to have from the Basilica of St. Francis, because I had no idea this was going on at the time. But it's not going to deter us. So anyway, the book has been available on Amazon for a few days now, but I didn't want to publicize it until I had a hard copy in my hand that I could look at. Now, it's not very big. It's only about 108 pages. And I purposefully set it at 12-point font with 1.15 space between lines to make it easy for old people like me to read it, but it also probably sent it to 108 pages rather than 70 pages. It's a very short book, but I think it says everything that I want it to say. And, there is this thing that they teach you about making YouTube videos, and that is that done is better than perfect. And that's kind of how I feel about this book. I could have continued to tweak this book for another 2 years, probably, adding little details here and a little more descriptive area over here. But I decided it said what I wanted it to say. So if you are interested, there'll be a link down in this particular video, and I'm putting the link in my timchilders.bio.link that will be on every video. And it will be on Amazon for $9.95. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about that cost. Some people might say, well, that's really only a $6.95 book, Tim. Well, it's self-published, which means that there's a lot of money involved on the print side. Out of that $9.95, if you ever want to write your own book, I will get $2.50. That's how much money I'll make. So it's not like I'm going to get rich on the 20 or 25 copies I'll probably sell. At least 15 of those will be family members. So anyway, I hope that you'll check it out. I really hope you'll buy it and read it. And it is a print-on-demand book from the KDP part of Amazon. But if you order it, it gets printed and typically shipped the next day. So it's not like you have to wait a long time. If you've got questions or whatever, I'll be happy to answer them in our next live stream that we do the first week of January. Or you can ask questions here in the comments section, and I'll try to answer them if I can. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy the book if you buy it. And I hope you continue to enjoy the channel, even if you don't buy it. No pressure whatsoever. We'll see you next time.